Welcome to episode 11 of the Black Art Podcast. Jake, I was expecting you to appear in a puff of smoke like last week.
Sorry, I'm all out of my magic puff powers.
The magic juices have all been splooged elsewhere.
Drained from me by life.
How have you been, man?
Not too bad, not too bad. Chugging along, that's my answer every single time you ask. It's just
I think it is, yeah. It's
life.
That's good.
But, creatively, still pretty good. Still
Had a creative week.
Yeah. Still chiseling out a couple hours every day to go through things and come up with stuff or try and implement routines into weird props that I make. The usual.
Some of those props you sent me photos of and they look so good. Well, no, some of those things, well, not props. I think I've got something else.
The print, like crib card kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Did you do anything to boost your creativity?
Just a lot of hallucinogen. No. I didn't really do anything. No, I just forced myself. It's just holding myself against the wall by my neck and saying, "Do it."
That's what. No, what are you gonna say? I spent the week down in Devon. My sister-in-law lives down there. I spent the week in in this luxury lodge with a hot tub and stuff. And I think on Sunday I must have spent, I don't know, 4 hours just pruning up in this hot tub, blazing sunshine, completely chilled out. And then today, what day today? Tuesday today, right? Came back. I was feeling really fresh after it. Got up early this morning, did a 10K, came home, made a coffee, sat in the garden, blazing sunshine, completely chilled out. I just felt incredible. And after that, I was feeling so creative, man, on a different stratosphere. So I actually, for the first time in ages, took some time. I don't know if you can see my table in the background. Everyone listening, see that little table I set up over there? Beep, 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 beep. I sat on there and I wanted to reapproach the torn and restored, the piece by piece torn and restored card plot. So I spent maybe 2 hours just jamming new approaches, my style, new approaches to the piece by piece torn and restored card plot. And it just came from just feeling awesome. Not like I'm awesome. I think just feeling good.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what made me feel creative, but I was certainly feeling good today and was feeling ultra creative, possibly as a byproduct of it. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, there's some days where you just feel pure, serene, cleansed, and ready.
That's what it was. I felt serene and cleansed. And the funny thing is, it was a Tutorial Tuesday day today, and I didn't feel like doing a Tutorial Tuesday. And I felt lately sometimes I'm just gonna not force them, and then do them when the time's right. But so I figured I'd spend time on this creation, and maybe because so many of the Tutorial Tuesdays are just rushed in a day. That's why the ideas are created in the morning and then they're filmed that day. So I might try and spend time on it longer and just see what happens. Just to try and, instead of forcing the creativity like I normally do.
Yeah, I think there's a place for both kind of approaches to it. The usual DIY punk 2 hours before, quickly come up with a routine, test it twice kind of approach, and then take it a couple of days with
all this happened, by the way, and my kitchen flooded in the middle of the day. I had to get my uncle to come out, who was a plumber. It actually flooded, a pipe burst, actually burst, and it flooded the kitchen. But it was still a pretty awesome day. And I still want to make creative stuff. So I figured maybe we could talk about some of the TNR ideas for this podcast.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe. I know it's been a lot of long play magic over the last few episodes, which is what we love, and a lot of ritual based or much more connecting magic. But I thought it would be quite cool to just delve into a bit of a deep dive into the TNR piece by piece plot.
Yeah.
How cool?
Yes, definitely. Anyone who's listening on Spotify is casing us out now, just in case there's going to be a little too many visuals.
Yeah, true. But I'll try and I'm not going to try and make it too visual based. I'll go and grab some of the cards that I was using to explain some of the points. But for anyone that like wants to follow up, you can come and watch the bulk of it on YouTube as well. If you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any other, I know people get precious about platforms. that could be the title right there. But
yeah, I'm completely down.
Sweet. Okay. Well, first of all, like, do you have any thoughts on the piece by piece restoration in general? Yeah.
No. It's not something I have really ever approached too much. I mean, I like some of the classic ways, and I like the Elliot Gerard and Matthew Wright's Beyond Reform.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Because the prop is absolutely gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
With a gimmick, sorry. Besides that, it's not something I've approached too much. Yeah, I mean, so I do not piece by piece, but I like doing it with receipts and things like that. I have a few gimmicks that are made of receipts where it's possible to do a torn and restore.
That's a brilliant. Yeah, I think, did you show me one of those that you had?
Possibly. I think one called Checkpoint. I can't remember who created it, but it's one of my favorites.
That's right. You sent me a text late at night that you'd been at a family gathering, right? And you'd shown it to.
Oh yeah. That was
the one.
Yeah.
Well, my thinking on it, I mean, it used to be that it was a trend like 15 years ago that everyone would, not everyone, but you almost like weren't a creator if you didn't have a piece by piece TNR in your arsenal that you'd created, and everyone was bringing them out. And there were some great ones, there were some not so great ones, and this and that. And I had my own out. I put it out on a download, and it was really successful. Like, it was probably the thing that like I started like my Magic release career off with, because it was really well received. And I haven't done it for years since, because I was in a car journey. One of these things, like how I approach Magic, and me and you both do, and sort of many people, but we approach it in varying different ways. And for me, the big thing was like I try and approach Magic as if it's real, and I try to approach Magic as if from a point of, I ask myself a lot of questions from the audience's point of view. So like when you see like the coin like seminar sort of thing that I did, a lot of those coin vanishes are not your typical coin vanish hand placements or even positionings, because that's not what people do. And years ago, I was working for a long time on I was handing people playing cards, and I was like, tear that up and put it back together, even if you can't do, like, lay people, and they were just tearing it in half at once. I remember I said to a friend of mine, Dwayne Williams, in a car ride, like, we should set ourselves a challenge to do a TNR where you just tear it in half, because that's what I've been working on, and put it back together, because that's what would happen. And he ended up creating something called a Revive, which is an amazing Toro Sword card. And he actually like did way better than I did, even though it was my thing that I'd been obsessing over. And so I sort of went down that path for a long time, creating torn and restore cards how I think they should be presented. But we got asked a question on the Magic podcast, me and Craig, and someone said, like, what trick would you do in a loud environment where they couldn't hear you talk?
Oh yeah.
And I was reminded. Pardon?
I think that was on here.
It was on here, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, yeah, it was on here. And I double checked this week to make sure I got but it was Wayne Houchin that said that, like, a good trick to do at nightclubs is a TNR, because you can just walk up to them silently and start it, and it's just interesting.
Yeah.
And for some reason that was just in my head all week. Like, okay, a piece by piece TNR in a nightclub, because he did it for Counterfeit Hollingsworth, whatever.
Yeah.
Or Counterfeit, as it was called when it was released the second time through Theory 11. So it just got my brain thinking, and there's something intriguing about the piece by piece restoration, is that it's sort of, you kind of have to go through a gauntlet, or not, you don't have to, but normally that type of effect, there's a myriad of methods at play. Incrementally. So you'll start off with doing it one way, then they put the first two pieces normally together, that's achieved with X method, then the third piece is achieved with X method, then the last piece is always, but you have to put the two edges, it's always the hardest piece. So I like to do it like this, and I like to do it like this, and so it's always like it rarely is the same process 3 times for each piece. And I like that because it feels like a puzzle from a personal point of view to solve. But also like thematically when performing it, it's nice because it's not generally like this, just repeating the same thing over and over and over. Like it's not like an ambitious card routine where it just keeps coming to the top, right? So what was, I had a funny surge of confidence with the creativity of it. Like, because it's basically like, because I haven't gone back to that plot for so long. And I've learned so many things and created so much stuff over the last, like, I don't even know when I put Restored out, but so much over those years, maybe like 8 years or something, that I was like, oh, I feel like I have a whole new tool shed.
Yeah.
To come at this with. And so that's sort of where I went. And I was just sort of making some like checklist points to myself today, sitting over there with a mirror in front of me and thinking like, what do I like? Or what does the new Lloyd like? What does the old Lloyd like? You know, what does the new Lloyd hate? What certain things do I feel are like updates?
Yeah.
Not
What's
necessarily
important for you to hit?
Yeah, what's important for me to hit? And also, if I was actually going to do a piece-by-piece restoration, even though a lot of them are very much, you know, like the Yves Dominguez one or like the Garcia Torn one or the Holloway one, very much like a lot of it's like touching like this and hand wipes. It doesn't, to me, it's like, well, it can still be a piece-by-piece restoration, but it doesn't have to follow those same visual like hand motions and aesthetics. So with all that running through my mind, I started to create a TNR. Don't have one currently in my head, but there were certain points that I was like, okay, this is kind of where I want to be at a certain point with it. So I kind of started to work backwards. And one of the things that I love with so one of my favorite TNRs is Houchins, right? Counterfeit. It's beautiful. And I think it's been out long enough now to sort of loosely say what happens for the last card. But with the last card, the last portion of the card, sorry, you do have to, I'll just say this for anyone, because so anyone that's not a magician won't understand this. But for the last piece, you have to use something from Tamara. It's called Crossing the Gaze, right? You know, you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it for me, and I know he performs it all over the world, and it works for him, but everyone's different, right? For me, it happens at like the complete like wrong moment. And I remember watching the first 2 restorations and being like, holy crap, that might just be. And I remember thinking, like, watching myself, like, if he restores the last piece as cleanly as that, then I don't think it could possibly ever be beaten. I think it might be the best TNR. So I was watching it with bated breath, and then that thing happens, and I was like, oh, and there's a beautiful subtlety with the burnt pieces, the burnt corner edges, and the middle piece. But I mean, it's so gorgeous, and I have performed it quite a lot actually, and it does really fly. It's just like, you know, if you can have we're always trying to improve what we work on, right? And if we didn't do that, we wouldn't have new magic. So no disservice to Houchen there because he's a god. But for me, it's like, it was almost perfect. So I thought to myself, well, what is it that I don't like about that? Or what is it that I would try to do differently? And I thought to myself, well, for me, the best thing would be to not have that thing happen anywhere near the end of the effect, where everyone's waiting, or even if they don't, you know, where I've been watching it live at the session convention, and a lot of people hadn't seen it before, and then it was like gasps and stuff, and then that bit happened, and it was like you know, I remember like, because I was waiting to watch people's reactions. Anyway, so I started like working backwards, and one of the things I was playing with, and I'm just going to grab the pieces for a second.
Yeah, no, go for it. Don't worry. I mean, for most of the rest of the podcast, it's usually just me nodding and going yes. So I get a decent 5 seconds to say hello here. Hi, everyone. Look at him. Hard at work in the background.
I just made the same mistake twice. So I was thinking it'd be good to, so it'd be nice to have a piece, right? And when you have the card that's in 3 pieces, so I'm working backwards, but I'm going to start sort of like from the middle phase. So I've got a card. Anyone that can't see, I have a card with one corner torn off, right? And I always have to think to myself twice, not say torn a corn. One corner torn off. And at this phase, I would love to hand that out and be like, look, we've now restored 2 corners.
Yeah.
Or 2 pieces, not corners. Well, yeah. And from here, whatever the method would be, I would like to then be in a position where I am now holding a different card, so a switched piece that looks identical, has 3 pieces showing, but it means I can restore the final piece and not have to switch right before that final piece is put into place. Yeah. Does that make sense? Kind of.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%.
So one of the things that I sort of worked on, I'm trying to think if I can show you here, is that I would show. So this is a real 3-piece card, right? This is just a normal card. This is a little bit of a special something. This piece in my right hand, and I would essentially say, like, okay, so I'm left with this last piece, which has 2 edges to go on, and the first edge has to be restored here. And to everyone at home, I'm listening, I'm just pointing to where one of the edges is, and I've just put the corner piece behind the card momentarily. And I say the second edge is this one, this long edge here, which has to connect to this side of it, right? So what we can do is, now I'm going to actually move this piece to the side and come here and unfold it again like that. And now I can show that I want to restore this piece into the position. But what I've done is actually switch this out for a gimmick. So this is a gimmick that will end clean, right?
Yeah.
All under the guise of, it looks like I've just casually like folded the card up to illustrate what 2 edges I want to restore with a piece. And then in the action of unfolding it, I've switched the 3-piece card for a gimmick card. And that 3-piece card is folded up into the shape of the corner piece. And the gimmick card looks like the 3-piece card unfolded, but really it's a full card folded in half. And I've just for now stuck an extra piece to it. So from the back, with the piece unfolded, it looks like a 3-piece card. But from the other side, I have this here. Does that make sense, Jake?
No, it makes perfect sense.
Right. So from here,
I like it.
Thanks, dude. So from here, I would then say I need to add this piece, the final piece on. Nothing goes out of view. So apart from the final piece momentarily, even that doesn't need to go out of view. And by the way, I know I've got it in the wrong orientation. So I haven't done the fold correct. Is that orientation? Yeah. So from here, I can then take that piece, which is actually the full card, but switched out. I can potentially put it in position, unfold the gimmick, but nothing really goes out of view at all, right? And even from here, I can just hand that out and steal this piece off underneath. But the beauty is that I'm in this position where there's no visible switching happening. Like nothing really goes out of sight at all for the majority of the card. And I can just hand that what looks like straight out, and I can steal that little extra piece off that I've just magic taped on.
Yeah, I like that. The parts that are visible are the parts that make it exciting, because you've cemented them being there. That's a physical object in your hands right now. Yes. And they can see that nothing is being switched. It's almost like the part where none of the work is going on is the important part.
Exactly that, dude. And it happens, yeah. So in my head, it happens like as you come out. There's a discrepancy in this handling anyway, at least for the indices in the corner, which can be covered like this.
Yeah.
But you come out, they've just examined this 3-piece of card. So there's no heat on that. You bring out the final corner, there should be no heat on this because nothing's happening yet. And then you explain casually, this edge aligns here and you hide it behind. So you say there. You say the long edge aligns on this side and you can sort of show it from the back. And then you have this nice moment where you look like you fold it into a packet, but you've got this ultra clean switch. It doesn't look like anything's really happened at all. And now, but you've actually switched one piece for another. So you've got this full card with an extra piece on it. and then you've got the gimmick, you've got the regular piece, but so it's kind of hard to explain, but they've switched physical identities. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that might be one of the easier ways to explain it, but it's you'll have to come look at the YouTube maybe if you're on Spotify.
Yeah. I mean, this is only if you're interested, because there's nothing to teach. I don't even have the full method worked out yet. But it was just the point of that I wanted to end. Obviously, I'm going to have to palm something, but I didn't want to switch something at the crucial moment. So I was at so going from there, because this is not the fun part yet, even for me. This is only like the boring bit. But now I'm in this position where I can essentially restore the card, and then all I need to do is palm one piece off, or I can continue showing this all over and then seal it off really easily. But that was quite cool. I really liked for me, it kind of ticked a box about ending clean.
Yeah.
I was saying, we were saying this on the last podcast where someone asked about a blank deck, and they were saying, "Well, what do I do?" And somebody asked, "What happens when I perform like I can't remember what the name of the deck is called, like a mind pattern, no, like a elemental deck, or basically a deck that ends up being blank, but the secret is like that it's a gimmick deck and it cannot be examined." Someone asked, forgive me for not remembering the name off the top of my head, because my head's going like a washing machine right now. But someone asked, what do I do when I perform the trick where the cards all become blank or they become printed? And somebody asks to immediately examine the deck. And the answer that I gave, and it's not the definitive answer, but the way that I would approach that is that I wouldn't end with that, or I try not to end with that gimmick deck. I would try to maybe 2 phases before switch it for a completely regular blank deck and one printed cover card, so that all you'd have to do is hide one card, or even use that card and be like, look, I'm going to take this card, put it in my pocket, and now the deck's blank. So you can end you actually do end clean. It's better to end clean when people want to examine something, than to not end clean. And I think when it comes to something like a TNR, switching sort of when the heat is there is the wrong time to switch. Not that it doesn't work, but we're just like, I'm not doing anything with the TNR. I'm just creatively testing myself to see where I go with it, So there's no disservice to anyone. So anyway, so I'm at this point now where I quite like the idea of ending clean as opposed to switching at the wrong point. And even still, though, I do realize that I'm switching in a certain way, but at the same time as the other one. So then I was thinking, why don't I like this? What is it that's still niggling me about it? Why is it like still scratching the skin? And it's, well, it's because it just kind of followed the formula. Like basically I was sort of almost of any other TNR, right? It's the same formula. Well, the last piece is the hardest because you got this edge and you got this edge to do. And because it's 2 edges, it makes it twice as difficult. And I was like, well, then it's kind of like a bit like, I was sat there and I had another method, which, do I have it set up? It's very similar to this gimmick here, but I had an extra, it was basically half a card folded in half so that I could restore one more edge and only have that middle edge to go. And then, but I could have a really clean display. And I was like, well, it's just so formulaic and it's not really how I would approach it. I'm trying to find my own method to how other people approach the aesthetic of the routine. So I was like, well, what would I do? How could I make it look a bit cooler? And how could I emphasize, if I'm going to make a point of ending clean, how could I emphasize ending clean? So I went in this direction. And again, this isn't what I'm happy with, but I think it's a better direction, better for me, my style. More, it comes closer to my performance style than anything else. I was like, I kind of like this idea. And I explored this briefly before in one of my gaff projects. But I was like, well, if I'm going to make a point of ending clean, I may as well end clean in the participant's hand. Right? Yeah. So that there's no disputing it. He couldn't have switched it. I was holding the damn card. So I got to this position where I was like, by just grabbing a piece of card, this one, I introduced my phone. So I show this 3-piece card. Everyone listening over Spotify, it's a normal card folded cleanly in half. And then I've just used some magic tape to add a 3rd piece on. So it looks like a 3-piece card. That's like 1 piece torn out, but actually it's gimmicked. So now I introduce my phone. And what I can do is if I, under like the disguise of my hands covering it, start to unfold that folded full card, right? So you can see this, but I can, from this angle, you see it, the workings, but from the front, it just looks like I'm holding the 3-piece card. If I bring my phone on top of it and use it like a mirror, I can say, see how that kind of looks like it's restored. So you hold on to that card there, I'll have them hold on to it. Now, when I pull the phone away, I've unfolded the rest of the card and it's restored in their hands, but visually kind of like a Twilight Angels type thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, all I would need to do from the back of the phone is once I unfold the card up, I can just continue with that piece and then just steal that piece with the phone. So now they actually end holding a restored card. But the beautiful thing is, it did not go out of their sight. Only the part of the card that went behind the to create the reflection, but that was by like that is by design. So it doesn't feel suspicious. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of liking this a bit more now because it's still a piece by piece restoration. I have another 2 phases, obviously, that get me into that position. So I add the first piece on and then the second piece on, but that ending now is something I like a lot more, where they see a 1/3 of a card. I reach in and grab my phone as I sort of unfold secretly the card, use the phone as a mirror like this. So if you can see on the screen, I'm flashing a lot because you also do need someone to hold the card for you, which, otherwise it works. Now it restores and you get this beautiful clean restoration, which looks kind of spooky as well. The only problem being there was no 3rd piece involved. Like there was no, 3rd piece / 4th piece. It's the 3rd torn off piece, but the 4th piece overall. So then I started thinking, well, I kind of like where it's going, but I've got to somehow introduce that piece because otherwise it's just, where does it come from? And I just don't like that. I don't want it to be too magic-y.
Right.
In a way, you know what I mean? Like if it was like, now like a lot of people would when there was gimmicks like this created in the past would be like, and the last piece just appears. All right, like, nah, no, like not allowed. So I was thinking, well, it would be kind of cool if say it's here, they are holding on to the front of the card. You can now unfold that, and what you can do is just even if you just bring it behind, and at the same, so then you bring it behind, you act behind the phone, you act like you're attaching it. You can steal the gimmick off at the same time, and then you can like push it into their view. I don't know, but even just that little thought of like bringing it in, you can just palm it straight back out if you need to. But from behind, it looks like psychic surgery in a way, right? So you're like, watch the last piece comes on, and then and then you can lift the phone because you'd be holding the phone. They'd have the card. You can come in or something. Kind of psychic surgery style.
Yeah, I really like that. I was half expecting you then to say, have a completely black video on your phone with the piece appearing on it somehow.
I did go there. So once I was at that position, I was thinking, well, what would be cooler than that? And I was thinking, if this gimmick piece here, instead of using a phone, if I use a Zippo lighter, well, I've done that in the past. I have used a Zippo to restore a missing piece of card, kind of like this, but incrementally. But if this, because they don't have to see this, the face of this extra piece of card, if I put a reflective sticker, like a mirror sticker on it, so then I could actually have it hidden in the camouflage of the Zippo. So as it restores, I can then steal it off onto the Zippo. And it could even have a magnet in it because it's never actually going to be used or seen by anyone. And then you'd end like very, very clean. They'd have it in their hands. You could show the Zippo all around and go from there. So that's kind of what I was playing with. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the final piece of a TNR and kind of things that you think would be cool to do, different ways of approaching it instead of just be like edge 1 and edge 2, like like using a mirror, like what Wayne Houchin does with the burn scorches as a convincer, which is incredible.
Yeah.
What else could be done? What could you do to make it more organic, more believable, but not as
It's an
cliche?
interesting one. It's really strange, isn't it? I mean, is it 100% more than just two pieces?
How do you mean?
I mean, what you're asking for? Are you asking for an approach where it is multi-phase, several pieces, or just a single?
But so yeah, in this instance, I'm talking about
Yeah.
like a piece by piece TNR. So instead,
Mhm.
not a TNR where you just tear it in half once.
Yeah.
But yeah, like what would be one of the ways you could consider trying to spice it up a little bit, or do it? How would you consider doing it, which is not the same as everyone else, for that final piece of a TNR, and maybe other pieces of other portions of it?
Oh, dude. I think it is, especially because it's ground that has been tread so much. It is important for it to be different, like really different as well, because there are beautiful versions out there. Don't get me wrong; it's not something I really perform, but there are beautiful versions, and there are versions where there's gimmicks or it is purely just skill with maybe a little bit of tape. But
Yeah.
I really like I do like that kind of dividing it and then pulling it out and seeing that it's being restored. It's strange because the only thing I'm approaching it from really is like presentation wise, and for some reason technique and method has just left my head. And all I was thinking about then was, oh, I bet you there's a cool presentation with this, or there's a cool
Yeah,
plot.
I don't care about technique or method. I just care about like cool aesthetics. Like forget the method completely.
Okay, cool.
Forget method 100%. What would just look cool or interesting or different?
Okay, so speaking as someone who is fairly unskilled when it comes to card magic, I mean, all of the basics, yeah, that's fine, but I'm never gonna. It's not gonna be something that's all I ever do. I would have to make it visually appealing without any skill. So I think what I would do is go down the route of having it be folded or torn in a way that was different. So maybe also I'd want interactivity because I think that's important,
Yes.
because it would have to involve a narrative for me as well. I'd have to be telling the story. So I think I'd do something like, you know, fishermen and lighthouse keepers both share one thing in common, and that's that they always have secrets. So there was a fisherman.
Oh, sorry. Holy cow, right? People might think that we are lame for this sort of stuff, but do you ever like read on Reddit, like what's the best opening line to a book ever? And there's things like the man in black fled across the desert, or the gunslinger fled across the desert and the man in black followed. That opening line you just said there is incredible.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
That is art.
So I think I would approach it from a weird story, and I'd say, I once heard about a fisherman and a lighthouse keeper who fell in love, and it's a tragic tale, blah, blah, blah. The fisherman built his boat by hand, and I'd be telling the story whilst I'm folding it in like a different kind of way. And he took many years building this boat. This was going to be, they had to keep their relationship secret because of some Romeo and Juliet bullshit. I don't know. I haven't fully fleshed that out yet. But he built his little ship so that
as Jake is talking, for anyone listening on podcasts, by the way, he's folding it into like the shape of a boat. It looks like a playing card into the shape of a boat. Okay, carry on. Sorry.
So that they could keep their relationship secret, he wanted her to move onto the boat with him and leave her lighthouse keeping job. And maybe at this point, I'd say, what do you think the name of his boat was? Do you want to write it on there for me?
Percy.
Okay. And they write it on there. They were supposed to be meeting up one night, and he was out on the waves, coming back to meet her. He was running late. And she turned the lighthouse off to go run and meet him. And that meant he crashed on the rocks. And the ship split in half, and he perished. And he sank to the bottom of the ocean. And she was distraught, obviously, and she made some kind of a, Faustian deal with some ocean deity or god or something. And it said to her, shine a light on the place where his ship sunk. So she ran all the way back up to the top of the lighthouse, And I might say to a spectator, you know, take your phone out and can you shine a light where the boat sank? And I have it here, and they shine a light, and then you're like, oh, and the boat rose up.
Oh, wow. I really, really like where you're going with this.
But that's only 2 pieces. I'd have to think of some other phase or something. I don't know.
Well, you know, the first thing that came to mind is that you could use like, you could kind of combine it with anniversary waltz in a way. So they had a 2 hearts and an ace of hearts, and then the 2 boats combined into one, or they met up and joined ships and things, which is really interesting. It's really funny that you brought up boats, and I don't know if there's something we were talking about last week that is making boats be something that we're both thinking of. One of the ideas that I had for this, and I've been racking my brain for it, is, you know, the theory of if you have a boat and you replace one of the pieces of wood because it gets rotten, and now another piece gets rotten, so you replace that, and you replace pieces of the boat. At what point does it become a new boat? If you replace all the pieces of wood incrementally one by one, at what point is that now not the same boat? I can't remember what that's called, and I'm probably doing ship of thesis. So it's crazy that you brought boats up, because what I was thinking was along the ship of thesis and doing a TNR where you take a playing card with a red back, you fold it.
I'm in.
Yeah, totally in. So you fold it in half like this, right? So I'm doing it just the standard in halfway, not lengthways, but the I'm folding it half lengthways, right? Not widthways, yeah. But then you take these 2 halves and you fold them in half, or those in half. Basically, I'm making potentially a card that's folded and has folds at 1, 2, 3, 4 folds. And I begin then tearing this card up along those lines, right? And as I do that, I do the same thing with another card, right, of a different color. So now I take, let me grab an indifferent card. So now I also take card, or maybe the spectator does this. And you talk, and you discuss, and also I'd like read up on the ship of thesis to find some interesting parable to go with it, or short story, or just some like interesting questions to pose to them. And you could talk about how, you know, every 7 years you shed your skin, and are you a new person every 7, you know, whatever, things like this. But I would basically then just essentially start to tear and then place the piece from the other card onto the section of the original torn card, right? And maybe I can get some tape. And maybe I can actually do the tape there, like actually in front of him. So I get some tape and say, look, I'm going to actually start to repair this card with pieces of the old card, right? So now I have I'm using an add card for anyone that can't see. So I have an add card, but the end piece along the short end is the 7 hearts. I say, is this, would you say this is the add card or the 7 hearts? And then I would maybe start to do this again. This time I'd tear the second piece and I would replace it with the second piece of the 7. Okay. But the idea is that I basically just start doing this. And I just love presentationally the idea of just like asking them at what point does it become the 7 hearts, and then ending with it being restored. And I feel like there's room to have a kicker ending there. I'm not sure what the kicker ending is, but it feels like it's got the room to have something where they go, at the end, you know?
Yeah. Now, maybe the kicker ending would be the other card that you are slowly like discarding. All of those pieces are together as well, but in the wrong order.
Oh, yeah, dude. Oh, that's good. That's so good.
You know, like what happens to the leftover parts?
That's great. So I'm going to take this piece here, stick it onto this piece. It's kind of like a Frankenstein card.
Oh,
Mary Shelley would be proud to do that. So now I have like this thesis. I don't know. Anyway, that's kind of where my head was going earlier on in the week. Was it? I can't remember. Oh, probably on the weekend. There's something cool about that, right? I will say I don't like the idea of it being mismade.
Yeah.
I mean, you can gimmick, and there's some incredible gimmicked TNRs out there. Like, there's no denying that. For me, like, I'm looking for one that would be like one that I could just perform. You know, go out and practically do it. And I don't tend to keep card gimmicks like that often on me. But yeah, that I don't know. There's something in that Ship of Theseus thing. There's also, can you tell me that line again?
I can't remember what it was. What? It's like fishermen and lighthouse keepers have one thing in common: they always have secrets, or something like that.
They always keep a secret.
Oh yeah, that might have been it.
Something like that.
I just like boats and lighthouses.
Yeah, no,
and I like the idea of having the card in a different shape. And you know, if someone isn't necessarily a card magician, there's still some kind of visual flair that doesn't involve mastery of it. You know, it's nice. It's a nice way to tell a story.
Yeah, there is something to be said for origami use, mainly because anytime I've like seen someone make origami, I'm trying to think of times where it hasn't, but for the recent memories, I can think of 3 occasions where origami things have been made either for me or for Kaylee. And I say recent, I mean within the last like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
We still have all 3 pieces. There's something, whereas people will sometimes keep torn and restored cards, but there's something special about that. All right, new goal.
I think that's a nice little souvenir. The name of the boat that they gave it, and it's been restored. I don't know. There's purely from a narrative perspective, I like that stuff. There's a lot there to work with.
Yeah, there's something interesting about, like, say you like, oh, I'm gonna call. So the magician would say, I'm gonna call the boat Jake, for example, and then the participants like, oh, I'm gonna call my boat or my half Percy. You could pre-write KE, like the last 2 letters on a card. Then you could write Percy or something on the card, like milk towards yourself.
Yeah,
and finish with it saying half and half of the names as well. So kind of like, you know, you basically, you pre-loaded half of the word that you want on there, but you know, the word could be butterfly, so it could be like perfly, even in a different ink. Yeah, it's not exactly the piece by piece TNR, but no. Yeah, I mean, you could talk about like maybe not so much a boat, but a butterfly or a plane. Or even a stick man. And then, you know, or like if it was a butterfly, you could say about losing its wings or something. So each piece is if you're going down the story route, each piece is you know, you tear off a wing, you tear off another wing, talk about Icarus flying too close to the sun, and things from there. In terms of aesthetics, so still forgetting method, in terms of aesthetics, right? Going back to the 3-piece torn and restored card plot. You know, what would be some interesting visuals? And I don't mean actual like method-wise visuals. Forget anything. Just if you could just do real magic, as aside from just saying, "Here's edge 1, here's edge 2, done." Like, what are some cool ways of approaching it?
You could, if it was to be performed on a table or a close-up mat, you could have 4 glasses over the top of 4 different pieces. And then if you're talking about, you know, the reason for that could be because you're saying about, you know, our torn and restored piece is usually accomplished through sleight of hand. But there's a way that we can kind of ensure that I don't get to do that. And we're going to isolate all of the pieces. And then maybe it'd be, I don't know, what would it be?
There's something really beautiful about that visual of 4 torn pieces of card under 4 like little whiskey tumblers, like face down tumbler, mouth down tumblers. Just aesthetically, that's pleasing.
Yeah. And a nice black mat.
Even taking, I thought I had a glass here. Even taking like a whiskey glass, and you put the card that's in 3 pieces in there. So you say, look, I'm going to take this card that's been restored 3 times. I'm going to place that folded up inside there, and then you drop the final piece in and swirl it, and somehow it comes out whole. Like, even that's really pretty, and it's a different way of doing it.
Yeah, I quite like that. I quite like the taking your time with it. Obviously, whenever the switch occurs or whenever anything occurs, the fact that it's in a glass will visually disguise that anyway. So you do get to take your time with the slowly swirling it around and then pouring it out.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of it. It's always like, it's like a hit for nothing. It's, if you just take your time with something, people will swear they saw something happen.
What if it was like you take 2 cigarette papers and you say, look, here's what we're going to do. Everyone knows like the edges are sticky on cigarette papers. So I'm going to put the corner in place, and I'm going to take the 2 Rizzlers, as we say in the UK. I'm going to stick one here and stick one here. I'm going to light them, but really it's flash paper. And now that piece is on there, but like it's all burnt to a crisp sort of thing. Not to a crisp, but it's all scorched. And I'm not so... The scorching thing has been explored before, and I do love the couching subtlety, so I'm not trying to step on that. I'm just thinking in terms of like that visual of like seeing it burst into flames would just be so cool.
Yeah.
I actually have a video on my YouTube somewhere of one thing that I did, and I wonder if I can pull it up. Can you just talk for a moment?
I can attempt to talk without any kind of visual.
Well, maybe just talk about
stimulus.
like a different way of presenting the final piece, like another idea.
Lloyd likes to puzzle me with card magic questions when I am not into card magic whatsoever. But I like the idea of isolating the pieces and removing yourself from the equation. Like removing any hint that it might be skill based or technique based. There's probably already a lot of gimmicks or props out there where you can hide the each stage, maybe where you could have a way to hide each stage of the restoration. I mean, it'd probably be pretty easy in a close-up mat to have a series of trapdoors over the top of it, sorry, underneath each of the tumblers, but that's not too interesting.
I mean, forgetting like method again, to just go straight to like, you know, could you use water? Could you use mirrors? What would make sense? What could be believable? Like, what else do you use to, like, would you put tape on it, or you know, safety pins? Like, you get a safety or paper clip. You're like, oh, the last piece is the most difficult. I'm going to put a paper clip on it.
Oh.
Here, I'm going to put a paper clip there, and then something cool happens with the paper clip where it's now, you know, somehow there's back together, but the holes are through a paper clip. Safety pins.
I do like the visual of staples in a card.
Yeah, that was like how Revived by Dwayne goes, which looks great. What else? What other materials do you use for sticking things together? Don't say what you're thinking. Oh, here we go. I found the video. It's one of those rare occasions where, you know, when someone looks at their phone for ages trying to find something. All right, so here's the video. I'm gonna have to show it to the camera. What I'm doing, this video, when was this taken? This was in, oh my god, this is March 19th. Was it May now? 2015, 8 years ago. So forgive the look. But basically, I've got a red playing card that's folded into quarters, and I want to make the creases vanish. So what I'm doing is this. So I'm getting a lighter. And the creases vanish in flames.
Ooh.
So what I've done is I've taken some flash string, stripped it so it was just like 1 or 2 threads. I'd take a normal playing card that wasn't folded into quarters or creased in quarters, and I just put flash string down the length in the middle and across the width in the middle. And then when you light the lighter, and you can put that on the bottom of the deck, so then you can place the folded card with creases in it on top. As you get a lighter, you just flip the deck upside down. Now it's switched. Then you light the middle of the card, and those flash pieces of string just go off the card, and it looks like the creases burn away. Kind of cool.
I like it. I like the idea of switching that in.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. A switch like that is unnoticed because the trick is almost over. So it's a bonus. Like, oh, by the way, let's get rid of the creases too, which they're not thinking about.
Presentational angle for the last piece. What I was thinking, which is a pretty dumb idea, but I was just a little bit enamored with it in my head then, was you could say, sadly, I've never been able to get past this point. I can never attach the last piece, but I want to give this to you anyway as a souvenir. And you have a little empty frame, and you put both pieces in the frame, and then you say, but maybe it'll work this time, and then somehow it goes boop in the frame.
Okay, dude. I really like where that is going.
Yeah.
So you're not going to want to carry a photo frame around with you,
No.
but you absolutely, it wouldn't be, like a lanyard, and
Yeah.
you get the little plastic name holder that goes in there. So like a little card plastic sleeve. It wouldn't be too crazy to have one of those on you. It wouldn't be too impractical to carry one of those. And in there, like you could use a stack of them and have one that switches it with a bit of black art, and you can rub away with dry wipe the black line. That looks like it's the separation. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, dude, this is purely like this podcast is the Pipe Dream podcast, so it's okay to talk about stuff that we're enamored with purely because of the romance of the magic. But I was just thinking, you could say, I want to give you this, but obviously I want you to keep both of the pieces together. I can never finish off the last bit. Maybe maybe one day I'll be able to get it. I'll keep it in this sleeve for you. You put it in the sleeve and give it to them, and they can just walk off. But if they look in it, you've switched it with a full card.
So the reaction happens later on.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. It would be very cool if there was something else in there as well, like you've ripped off a cross shape of creases from another card, like very thin creases, or like tear marks. So when they open it, the full card comes out, and also like parts of the tear. So it's like, oh, did the tear fall off? Or, you know what I mean? Almost like when David Williamson peels the signature off a card. Yeah, it's got that black tape in there. Like, they pour it out, but not saying that the signature, but something else in there. What else would you do? What if you so say you have the piece of card that has 3 pieces on there, and you have a business card, or maybe maybe another full card, right? So you're like, okay, the last piece I'm going to staple on or tape on, but like you tape it onto a piece like this, right? So like for everyone else, I put a full card sort of at an angle, and then behind the missing corner, and then I take the corner that's missing. I'm gonna take this piece of a tally ho, rest in peace, tally ho, and then like you say you're gonna tape it on to that, and they can take all of this home, and when they get home, like that's one fused together card.
Oh, right.
The whole thing is like one giant card, or your business card sort of is the aid to it.
That's cool.
Although still not the best. That final piece, what are logical conclusions to it, as aside from just like using fire or using tape, using a mirror? What do they do in other parts of life when something needs to go back together? Plastic surgeons, stitching. What happens like to a lizard regenerates itself, doesn't it? So you'd see it regenerate.
Yeah. How do you repair something? Therapy. If you take this card to therapy for 6 months, and it'll fuse back together.
It's that all-important final piece. See,
it's interesting that you want to approach it from a logical angle as well,
as opposed to an illogical angle.
Yeah, I mean, the bizarre, the romantic. The logic is important sometimes, isn't it?
It is. I mean, at the end of the day, we are performing magic. We are creating magic. So the illogical part is tearing the goddamn thing up to put it back together in the first place, right? Whenever people, like, I sometimes see comments on my videos, oh, like, why would you throw a coin through a card? It doesn't make sense. It's like, well, dude, like, why do people do TNRs? probably not the best example of when people have left a comment. I can't think of what
Why
they
do
have.
people pull rabbits out of hats?
Just because they can. Just for the hell of it. For the halibut. So there
What
is that
is a
whole argument of,
logical way?
I mean, what would be a logical reason to tear a card into 4 pieces? Apart from I got the card wrong.
If they were to be used as markers or tokens for something else initially.
Oh. What if a trick is done, 4 people sign a card, and it's a card to impossible location, and then you say, I want to give all of you a piece to remember, so I'm going to give you each a piece of the card. Oh, by the way, I realize how wishy-washy this sounds, so so you tear it into 4 pieces, and then you say, maybe that's like an interim effect, and then you say, I'm going to give you the option of 1 more piece of magic. And one of the options is I can put all those pieces back together, but you can't all keep the card, in which case you could end up with a dupe, which could, because they're never going to examine it. Or, nah, I like your thing, a whole token, or what's a reason for tearing something up? I used to do this thing where I would purposefully sit at a wobbly table. And as casually, I would take the top card of the deck of cards, fold it into 4, and wedge it under the table. And then I would later on in the evening, before, not long after having a beer, I used to drink, have a card chosen, signed, Mercury fold it in the midst of making it vanish, and then be like, I've just started like, this table's a lot more sturdier, and then sort of wait for them to go. And I'd come down to the table leg. I'd flick the folded piece that was under the table under my shoe, or sometimes I would steal it out as I went to the toilet and not draw attention to the wobbly table again. As I like, just about to get up and leave like 10 minutes before. And then I would just come down with the Mercury folded card and pretend I'm pulling it from under the table leg where it had been since the start of the night, where they remember me doing it, and then show that it was their folded card. Just a cool way of doing card to impossible location in an organic sense. Like, there is a good reason for having the card folded up.
Yeah.
In a Mercury fold is because we were using it to steady the table. I always thought that was like a fun way of doing it.
Yeah, I like that. It's a pretty unique way to have a kind of isolated object that it hasn't been drawn attention to, but is obviously there.
Yeah. So I wonder if you could do it in the same vein, which is, before you begin, you're like, the table's a bit wobbly, and you just casually tear a card up. You're like, let's just do this. And then stick it under the table leg, and you're like, oh, perfect. Okay, now let's begin. And then you do, do an effect, lose the card, and you're like, oh, you know what? Actually, because what you could do is, as you go down there to put the 4 pieces in, you could switch it for a dupe card that's just folded into 4. We worry about signing cards so much. Spectators don't. Like, when I approached this TNR earlier, I signing the card was the last thing on my mind. So when you go under, you could just put a Mercury folded card under there, a duplicate, and now you can have a card selected. You fold it up. Maybe you tear 1 piece off, and then it ends up transposing under the table. But it's not that piece by piece that we're looking for. I do get that.
Yeah.
But it's one of those it's one of those very rare instances that I can think of where it makes sense to tear a card up, because I think most of us have either folded a card or torn a piece of paper up, or the beer mat usually, to wedge it under a table leg.
I like that kind of naturalistic situation based stuff a lot. Taking advantage of a situation to create a little moment. What is a logical way without this, the situation though?
Unless you did this right, you take like a coin, and you find a table which is not wobbly. You put a coin under the leg. Now you have a wobbly table. So you sit down. Maybe it's like your favorite bar or coffee shop. So ahead of time what's going to be the situation. So you rock up, you come out, you drop your cards on the table. Normally I will do that and get my coffee or something. And then you're like, oh, this table's a bit wobbly. I'll choose one of these. go to put it under, and like, oh, actually, it's just a coin. Never mind. Oh, that's better. Now I'm like, oh, I've pulled my card up for no reason.
Mm.
And now you can just casually start putting it back together. I know it sounds stupid. You could just be like, watch me turn the card up, watch me put it back together. But Magic, where a problem is being solved that's being organically created, can feel much more off the cuff and much more powerful.
Yeah.
I'm using the word can. It doesn't always hit.
No, it doesn't always, but I know
winding
what you
people up.
mean. I know what you mean, and I agree with you. It does just depend, doesn't it? Because sometimes it's getting into a certain situation where the setup is like to be used to your advantage. Sometimes it's way too obvious when people do it. I've seen people try it in bars and stuff. I've seen people try it at Blackpool, and it's really, if it's done well, it's cool, and if it's done bad, it's just contrived, and I don't know.
Yeah,
it has to be honest, doesn't it? It has to be actually a practical thing has been done for a practical reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird that this is the thing that's kind of like got us a bit stumped, is like, why would you do that?
Yeah, the whole thing. What if it was something along the lines of this? You're like, I'm going to show you a piece of magic, but I don't want to tell you out loud. So I'm going to send you a text of instructions.
Yeah.
And you send them a text, and it's kind of like the vanishing bandana or banana, whatever it's called. And there's some phrase that makes it sound like they should tear the card into 4 pieces.
Right.
But it's not what they need to do at all. So they end up tearing the card in 4. And you're like, oh, no. Oh, no. Did you just... Okay. That's like the only card I have for my... Like, I've got to do a whole gig tonight. Like, all right. Okay. Let me put these back together real quick and we'll start again. Sorry. No, this is my fault. I should have instructed you better. Sorry, dude. And then you just casually... Let me quickly just put them back together. Great. Here we go. All right. Let's start again. And then perform the trick. So they make the mistake for you.
Yeah, I like that. So if you go in the route of them making the mistake for you, you could say, I have a whole bunch of tricks that I do where it's essentially decided by which card you're going to choose, and you could show them a couple of them, and like one of them might say, hide this card somewhere in the room, and you show them another one that says, like, fold this card up and put it in your pocket. And one of them would say, like, tear this card into 4 pieces.
Oh, dude, that's so good. They all have instructions, like you're saying. They pick one that says, tear this card. Or maybe you say, cut the deck and look at the card that you cut to, right? They look at this card that says, cut it into 4 pieces. You turn back around and you say, oh, whatever the instructions do, say, do it. So they do that. And you hear, you're like, wait, what? Wait, did you read this card? No. What did this card say?
Yeah.
And you point to the other half of the deck that they've cut.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, man. Okay, no worries. That's all good. I don't even have a full deck anymore. This kind of needs a full deck. Do you have the pieces? That's pretty cool, Jake. Do you know where my head went?
Where?
Completely different universe. I was thinking, how cool would it be if you took a party popper and you were like, watch this. I'm going to take a party popper. If you take the paper off the front and empty all the pieces out, I'm going to take a playing card and tear it up into loads of little pieces and put them inside there. Now I'm going to put the paper on the front. I want you to pop the party popper in my direction. They do that. It goes pop with all playing card pieces, and you grab a card out that's folded up from the pieces, and it's now restored in your hand from a party popper.
You do a bullet catch in your mouth.
Like a bullet catch with a party popper, but card pieces that restore.
I like that. Am
I losing my mind?
No, you're not losing your mind. That's fun. And this is like I said, this is the Pipe Dream podcast. What situation are you ever going to be where you're going to do that? But it's fun to think about.
Well, you know what? You probably, that is a situation where you would be in a party that could likely happen.
True.
Has anyone ever done somebody must have done a party popper bullet catch?
I hope so, because it seems so obvious now.
Imagine putting like a polo in there, and then you just, or a lifesaver in America, just grab it out the air. Or like you open up a party popper and you're like, look, sign this tic tac. So they put a mark on the tic tac, and then you're like, okay, we're gonna put it in there. I'm gonna fire that baby up my face. And then you just get like this, like streamers on your face, and you catch the little tic tac. There we go.
Well,
There's a
or then you
miracle.
do that trick where you push the tic tac out your eyelid.
Oh, I don't like that trick. Do you?
I don't. It looks cool.
It's not a trick.
No,
it's not magic.
But it looks cool.
I mean, it can kind of be magic, but then, you know,
I think
I was going to say something gross.
It gets good reactions from what I've seen, but it's not.
Like Kieran Johnson always says though, like you can just get naked to get a good reaction.
No, I know. It's not for me, but I think it's interesting.
Yeah,
and it comes from yeah. Well, I do have an affinity for any kind of carny, bizarre,
Yeah, I do like a lot of carny magic, but I've always thought that wasn't a magic trick.
Like,
so, dude, you not like stuck a tic tac in your eye?
So do you not like anything with thread in eyes?
It was one of those tricks that I just never. I'm very much a magic purist. To an extent, as in, I quite like not the foundation. I like the classic plots in magic. What excites me about creativity in magic is redefining those plots. What's never really interested me so much. Like whenever Blame was on TV, I never liked the levitations, never liked the twist in the arm thing. Like it was just, I don't know why. I appreciate them, but you'd never catch me doing it.
No. Lloyd's too cool.
I think I'm the opposite. I think that stuff is too cool for me.
I'm joking. That's really interesting. I do like. I mean, it's not. It might not seem like the type of stuff I'm into, but there's a lot of like weird magic I like as well. And I mean, I when I was a teenager, I spent ages learning how to do blockhead stuff. Like, I love stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing with me with like escapology. It's and like gambling demonstrations.
Yeah.
It there is and can be crossovers with magic with it, but for the most part, it has as much in common as like being a clown does with stand-up comedy. Like, yes, they're both funny. Yes, they both make people laugh. Yes, they're like performance arts, but a stand-up comedian is very different to a clown. And it's noticeable to like anyone that's like, to even the untrained eye. I don't know. That's for it's like for me. It's like I'm very much a magic purist. I like magic tricks. Shoving batteries up your ass and coughing them out your mouth isn't really a trick. Well, it is. You know what I mean?
Lloyd's an elitist. I think whatever you want to call magic is magic.
Yeah, no, that's true. No, it's not that it's not. It's not that it's not good. Some of my I know people who are amazing at it. It's just It's just not my thing.
You really gonna go down the route of some of my best friends are escapologists?
No. Like the Amazing Mr. Goodwin TV show. Still one of my favorite TV shows that's in our field in the loosest terms, because he approached it like realistic. The stuff he did was so relatable, and there was so many lessons that magicians could take away from that show that they still haven't learned to this day. And I always think back about like how it was so well done. So I can appreciate it and think it's genius, but at the same time, it's just not me.
What about when Darren Brown does some of that stuff?
I would if I was watching it on TV, I'd fast forward it.
Really? Even because he has the slant of it being psychological. When he does the stuff with like the nail in that hand and
the nail in the hand, walking on glass, blockhead. I don't know if the other part of it is like that stuff doesn't scare me in the slightest. Like me, because we were idiots as kids. We would just sit down at like the skate park and just put safety pins through like massive lumps of flesh and like walking on glass. Just never. I think because it doesn't really seem like it's an impressive feat to me, and also it's not because of that, then like it's not fooling. I struggle to see the magic element and how that can relate.
I respect your opinion, but you're wrong.
No, I know it's dope, and I know it gets good reaction. I was talking about this, on the Magic Podcast, I want to say, about the hand stab, smash and stab.
Yeah.
I can appreciate it. I've seen it play huge, but I find it ultimately like it's artificial drama almost every single time. And I know people like Darren will show a highlight reel of people who go wrong with it before he does it to like amplify that tension in the room. But unless it goes wrong, everyone knows what's going to happen. And if it does fake go wrong, then people know you're faking it. Even when Darren like passes out when he does the oracle, everyone knew he was faking it because he does it 300 nights in a row, so it's not real.
Yeah.
And even, but when it does genuinely go wrong, you're just a dick.
Yeah.
You know, it's not entertaining. Or I mean, it is for some, but do you get what I mean? Like those types of routines, you know where it's going. When you put somebody in a straitjacket, you know that they are going to escape for the most part.
Do you remember that video in like 320p of Brian Brushwood from like 20 years ago?
Through the back of his hand.
Yeah.
That was great. That was great.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? Like that artificial drama, there's something human. I talk about this so much. Like humans know for the most part when we are faking it because we are all terrible actors. Even actors are terrible actors when it comes to being real. So when everyone's like, oh, I wonder if he's going to actually smash it. Like they're not actually like, they know it's going to end okay. Like, I don't know. There's some, and I would say it was definitely on the Magic Podcast. I would say like, if there was and that's why Jonathan Goodwin did it so well. Like he would do things which was tangible. Like, you're like, oh, actually he's not faking that because you can't, sort of stuff. Like putting the scorpion in his mouth or the iron over the towel in his living room, and he had to escape before the iron burnt through the towel, and he didn't, and he just burnt a hole in his chest. Like, just okay, that's that's realistic. But so when it comes to like things like a smash and stab, I was saying to Craig, like if you change the context to make it super worrying. So I think the two examples I use is one, if it goes wrong, they get to shave your eyebrow off.
Yeah,
but for real. So the drama is real. Oh, the other one was like, you like, so I say I'm performing to you, I would take your phone, I would write a really embarrassing text to somebody that you don't want me to text. I would then not press send, but give it to someone that will press send in 60 seconds, unless this piece. Now that's drama that is palpable because it's real. If it is actually, going to be sent or whatever. But I don't know. There's something about that even making it just a lot more relatable to someone.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, I mean, that's a spike under a cup. It could be a fake spike. I'm sitting at the back of the audience. I don't really care if it goes wrong because he's probably going to be fine. And more than likely, it's not even going to go wrong. As opposed to like saying, okay, who here is willing to take a picture of their private parts in the toilet in the intermission? Okay, good. Do that, bring it back here. And then you say, right, I'm going to post this on your Facebook unless I can escape from, I'm going to post, something where everyone can like be like, oh God, I would actually hate that to happen. Like that is really scary.
Yeah, something does have to be tangible, doesn't it? I think it's a strange one to approach coming from the angle of like, this isn't pure magic as well, because there are certain shows like where there's not that much going on in terms of magic tricks or anything, but it's still magic.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I mean, like, if you were to watch in and of itself, there's like 4 magic tricks in it, but that is one of the most magical performances ever.
I'd love to hear like the audience's views on that show a year after it.
Yeah. Well, you went to go see it, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, lay audiences. I seen it. Yeah, I did see it live. I remember thinking like, not thinking. Me and my mum went to go and see, and my friend Wilson went to go and see Lee Evans live. And he said so many jokes so quickly that we literally missed half the show from laughing.
Yeah.
Because he was incredibly funny live, especially, right? And then I've seen other comedians like Ricky Gervais, which are much more measured. You know, I mean, no one competes really with like the speed of Lee Evans, right? And the craziness of it in terms of just like how many beats per second or minute there are. And again, like Ricky Gervais, like side-splittingly funny. And I wonder, like, quantifiable ways of, if somebody's seen Delgadio's show, did they think it was more magical than going to see like a Penn and Teller show where there's way more pieces of magic that happen, or someone, you know, that it's like, I don't know, like a Chris Angel show, probably. I've never seen it, but there's probably a lot more magic packed into that
Yeah.
per minute. And
That's
wondering,
an
like,
interesting comparison.
yeah, like a year after, do they or like a better example would be the Dynamo's live show versus like Delgadio's live show.
Yeah.
Someone that's been to see both, that's not interested in magic, and like is like a lay person, and to see which one they found more, you know, how they would measure them.
Yeah, what stuck with them the longest?
yeah. Like, it's like, you know, it's crazy, but like, people, the lay public, the Joe Blogs public, still to this day know Dynamo for putting a phone in a bottle.
Yeah.
How many people go away from the Delgadio show talking about him putting I mean, it's on Disney, or it was on Disney, so it's, and he shared I think he even shared a pirate link to it, didn't he, on his Facebook or something?
Did he?
When Disney took it offline. I think Disney took it down without telling him. So he shared like a rapid share or some streaming service link to his own show. But there's a part where he makes an origami boat, ironically, from the label of a bottle, and puts that inside the bottle. Well, you know, if that was to be seen by the same audience that's seen Dynamo's show, but, you know, it was a test pool, and they were shown, half of them were shown Derek's first and then Dynamo's, half of them were shown Dynamo's and then Derek's first, in opposite order. You know, it's kind of like, what I'm saying is magic kind of relatable to SpongeBalls, where you could do the most meaningful, impactful, powerful, heart-driven pieces of magic, paced and timed so that every piece sits and stands on its own, and someone comes along and does SpongeBalls in hands, and to those people, you are the better magician.
Yeah,
fascinates me, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a weird one to kind of come to terms with as well, because it doesn't matter how good the response is from something like that. I still know for a fact it's not going to be what I do.
Absolutely.
Because
and also I can imagine like Delgadio wouldn't give a crap about what, you know, because it's art, it's his story. So and it's almost got like nothing to do with magic in a way. Magic is just like the amplifier to the story, or sort of like I don't know. I'm probably getting that wrong as well from his point of view, but just from the perception of magic people's perception of magic, like that's really interesting. Yeah, like I still can't bring myself to do SpongeBalls, knowing how powerful they are.
Yeah, I do have a little set of sponge rabbits that sometimes I'll use for younger family members.
Do you? That's pretty cool.
The mummy and the daddy sponge rabbits, and they have lots of kids.
Ah, that's cool. Yeah, no, I still can't lower myself to do that, but hey, whatever works.
Lower yourself. Elite. That's what I said before. Elite. I might be wanky, but at least I respect the sponge balls.
I do have a couple of sponge balls in a drawer there. Because I was trying to convince myself to go out and work them. I'm almost worried that I'd enjoy it too much. You know.
Yeah. You sit there for 20 minutes fooling yourself.
It's why I just don't sit there smacking up on heroin, because maybe it'll be too good.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, I think
it kind of veered a little bit off from Torn and Restored, didn't we?
Yeah, I'd love to know what people's thoughts are on this episode. If you're watching on YouTube, then drop a comment down below. If you're still watching, what should they say? What can they comment, either on the Facebook discussion group or on...
I've got a couple of sponge balls in the drawer.
Yeah, balls in the drawer.
Balls in the draw.
If you're still listening at this point on YouTube or in the Facebook discussion group, comment or post balls in the draw.
Yeah. And I need to apologize to you, Lloyd, as well. Because last episode, I said to you, you never ask people for likes or to subscribe on these videos. And so I implored everyone. And it was the worst performing episode to date. So people don't like being told what to do by me, at least. So I think you should ask them.
Well, because you look like Aquaman.
Yeah.
You are the ruler of the seas, not the magical kingdom, my friend.
Fair enough.
No, we're just saying that if you are enjoying these episodes, then please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, drop us a like, give us some engagement, really. Let us know you're out there. Get involved, get amongst it. Head to theblackartcode.com if you are looking for other links. So if you want to send us a message, if you want to mail us, if you want to find the Facebook group, if you want to just send some hate mail. We need some hate mail. Maybe we should have like a terrible tweets thing and just get like some abusive tweets and read them. That'd be good.
Look, I was quite surprised that only one person insulted me in the comments in the last video.
What did they say?
Avichar said something. I can't remember what it was.
Oh, he's a friend. I mean, he's more of a friend to me now.
He's not my friend anymore. should we go through, because last episode we only had time to answer one question. Should we try and go through some of the lovely, beautiful questions?
I would say yes, but I've just had a text saying that I need to jump off. How long have we been recording for?
Oh my Lord, Lloyd. You know, it isn't you gets the backlash for this. People message me, moaning at me because we haven't answered their questions.
Right. Okay. How many questions do we have?
7,000.
Ooh.
Well, should we just do a questions episode next time?
Yeah, just can you collect them all in one like dossier?
I can collect them all. There's not really 7,000. There's probably about 12. Maybe.
Oh, really? That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, 12 Q&A questions would be great to do, because if we were to start doing 12 now, we wouldn't get through them, so we'd still leave people out.
Yeah.
And if we're going to leave people feeling left out, then we may as well.
There's another one that was an audio question that was pretty long and would take up about 30 minutes to talk about. So.
Ooh, yeah. Let's use that as a cold open for episode 12.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Sound good?
You're getting shouted at to leave, are you?
Well, my kid is in the next room being put to bed. And I'm sitting here laughing about Tournament of Sword cards, wondering if the golden brick was more magical than putting two balls in the hand. What? And also, I'm really, really tired.
Same, dude. Same.
I was running along the beach 12 hours ago. My little chubby bum cheeks going, struggling for breath. Doing a 10K.
Oh no, I have to go to the beach. Oh no.
I was doing a 10K. I didn't have to go to the beach. I'm trying to shift some of the.
Leave us then, Lloyd. Leave.
Should we answer one question?
Okay. Shall I just pick one at random?
Pick one at random.
Okay. I'm going to pick this question because I thought it was a really good question. And it's from Rich Relish. And he says, what do you guys think about invoking negative emotions through your performance? Maybe the living and dead test, for example. And I thought it was a really interesting question that we might not be able to cover completely right now if we're doing a quick fire 2-minute response.
No, go on.
What you weren't listening, were you, Lloyd?
Yeah. No, what do you feel about invoking negative emotions in a performance?
Yeah.
Go on, you go into it, because did we cover this a little bit last week?
We may have possibly covered it a tiny amount, but it obviously it depends on what type of performer you are and what type of material you've got and what type of audience you've got. But it's something that is interesting to tread the line with, but there's definitely situations where you can go too far when it comes to the faux psychic stuff or anything like that. I for the most part stray away from living and dead test things, but it is interesting, and there is room for not necessarily negative emotions, but challenging a participant, I think, is interesting. There's kind of like a cold open when approaching someone that I've been testing the waters with lately. and it is coming from a challenge, a challenging viewpoint, like not argumentative or hostile, but a little bit provoking them maybe. And
Okay.
yeah, I've recently took to asking people, when was it you stopped believing in magic then, to get a
Oh.
response from them. Um,
Ooh.
which isn't necessarily, negative or invoking anything tragic or traumatic, but it is a semi faux hostile, like way to start something, and it's just something that I've been trying out lately.
It's really interesting because immediately it makes me feel like they would want to be like, I never stopped believing in magic.
Yeah, it's been about 50-50.
It has. So some people
Yeah.
would just be like, oh, when I was 12.
Well, maybe not as clinical a response as that, but usually if someone is approaching from I had someone ask, "Oh, do you do like card magic and stuff?" Then, and I was like, "Well, not really. I'm not very good at card magic, but I do consider myself to do like I do consider myself someone who performs magic." And they said something a little bit snarky, and I just replied kind of snarkily back, but it went well. And I said to them, "Oh, well, when did you stop believing in magic then?" They said something a bit funny back, and I said, "Should we try and change it?" And then just went into some like random billet stuff.
Did it work? Or did they go, you
Yeah.
peaked it?
No, they really liked it.
I really love that, man. When did you stop believing in magic? It's kind of a,
You know why I think it works? Because it toes the line a little bit between snarky but not really snarky. There's almost like a bit of pity. Like you're like, oh dude, when did that happen? I'm sorry for you.
yeah, it's kind of like saying like, when did you stop believing in Santa?
Yeah.
It's almost like, oh, when did you decide that your childhood was over?
Mm.
Sort of thing. Or when did you stop having, it kind of like has like the inherent feel of when did you stop being fun?
Yeah.
Like I bet you're fun at parties sort of attitude to it.
Mm. But obviously you don't want to go too far. You don't want to run up to
No.
someone and be like, punch them in the face. I think it's an acceptable level of not negativity, but it's just being a little bit challenging in a
Yeah.
performative and entertaining way. There's no actual malice there.
No, exactly. And especially if you say it in the tone of voice you phrase. Also, oh, by the way, when did you stop believing in magic?
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's just a, of course,
Hmm.
everyone did. But if you were like, so, when did you stop believing in magic?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a big difference.
Mm. What other ways can you phrase that question? Do you believe in magic or don't?
um, hmm. I quite like asking someone what they'd like to see, and there's probably ways you could phrase that that are similar. You could say to them, well, "What could I show you to make you believe in magic?"
That's interesting. Yeah. Do you believe? What if you started it like you work in it maybe backwards? You sort of say, do you believe in God or a God, one of the gods?
Hmm.
Do you believe in Santa? And then each time they're answering, and like, do you believe in magic? And they say yes or no. Well, obviously you're hoping they say no. If they say yes, then you're already halfway there. But if they say no, then you go into, is there anything that would make you believe in magic?
Yeah.
What would it take to make you believe in magic? The funny thing is, if it was like Santa, they know the answer, which is like, I'd need to see Santa. I'd need to see him flying through the air. If it was a god or one of the gods, they would either say like an act of God, which most people would know what type of act of God they would want to see,
Yeah.
uh, or see the God himself. But with magic, it would be people would find it very hard to know what would it take, and that's kind of like the nice thing is that you can direct what they. You could then say, oh, for me, it would take me to, for example, and this is rubbish, but like if somebody could tear a card up and put it back together magically,
Yeah.
that's all I would need to believe, and then you could go on and show them that, so you could almost lead them to the answer that they don't know they need.
Yeah. That's interesting. There's oh, who is it? Who wrote the is it Ben L wrote Inside Out? I believe, I think it's Ben L, has a kind of ethos about asking someone what they would want to see and then reworking his existing repertoire for the narrative to include what they've mentioned, basically.
Yeah.
Which is a really good way of like, it's not jazzing with a trick, it's jazzing with the storytelling so that it is applicable to whatever they have asked. So, you know, if you, like, realistically, if you ask that question to someone, they'd probably say something stupid. They'd probably say, pull an elephant out your ass.
Or walk on water.
Yeah. So you have to find a way to reframe an existing performance piece or trick or whatever within that narrative.
What if it was like, so I'd say to you, Jake, when did you stop believing in magic?
When I experienced this great tragedy 10 years ago.
For me, I stopped believing when, and I would say that this isn't true, but I'd say something along the lines of, my grandfather used to pull a coin from behind my ear every time I seen him, and I could take that coin and I could go to the store and I could buy a comic book and a bar of chocolate on a Saturday morning, and he would do that every weekend up until one weekend I stood and I could see in the mirror that he had the coin in his hand. And it immediately snapped me out of my childhood. It wasn't just that I lost the magic, but I lost my innocence in the least provocative way possible. You know, I sort of realized the grander reasons he was doing this was to give me that feeling of magic, and it sort of it was upsetting, but it was almost like a rite of passage. And I figured that if I was to ever feel real magic again, or give someone the feeling of real magic again, then the next time if I was to ever pull a coin from behind someone's ear, I would have to do it for real. And then I could show my hand empty, reach behind their ear, place the coin in their hand, you know, sort of thing. And maybe it would just give them goosebumps. Something along those lines, right?
Yeah. I like that angle. I like that a lot. And there's a lot of different ways you could go with it as well.
Mm-hmm. I remember Mark Lemon, one of the best creators ever. He has a thing with his console trick where he would say this story about how he used to stand next to the fridge as a kid, and his grandmother would turn it back to the fridge, and he'd write like a 4-letter word with the magnetic letters from the alphabet on the fridge, and she would always be able to psychically know what those letters said. And he said, like, one day he caught her looking in the reflection of a spoon or something, and that's how he knew how she did it. And then they would go on into the performance of console where you'd have a photograph of those 4 letters on the thing. So I'm probably taking from that, you know. But to weave a story of like your childhood into the you know, because the phrase could also then, if they don't take offense to it and they're like, oh, I still believe in magic, you could then go into, oh, I used to, or good, you know, but it's not so oppressive or offensive, maybe. Then go back to Richard's question, which is like that invoking negative emotions. I've seen it being done, and I'm racking my brain because I'm thinking I've seen it recently.
Oh, really?
Where people use it as an exercise to, in a magic sense, to take that negative emotion and then replace it with a positive emotion. And as they do that, you reveal like the peak word or X, Y, whatever it's going to be, like the effect.
That's on. There's like 2 things that I'm working on at the moment that involve pretty much that exact.
It might have been you that told me that, and I apologize if I've just spewed that.
No, it's fine, dude. But possibly.
Oh, dude, that probably is you. That I'm so sorry if I.
No, it's fine.
But that's why I say, like, I know it's like it's someone's talking about it recently, and it was you. But obviously, I haven't hopefully gone into the details too much.
But I like that. That's a completely acceptable and gentle way to approach a negative subject, and it's constructive and productive. It's not just saying, think about this dead person.
I mean, what is like a real negative emotion, like an actual, like, okay, Jake, think about a traumatic experience that you've never gotten over.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Now think of a word. It
Yeah.
was light bulb. You know what I mean?
I think there's a lot of different ways you could go about invoking negative emotions that aren't anything to do with specifically singling out. This is going to make you feel awful. Even like I said, even just faux challenging hostility, where it's just banter or
Mm.
anything like that, might be a negative emotion. They're asking questions. You can definitely ask negative questions. It doesn't necessarily be something where you have to tread a line very carefully, but you also still do have to tread a line very carefully.
Yeah. I mean, it's always good if you give them the option. So say like, look, I've got
Yeah.
two words written on cards here. One says negative, one says positive.
Hmm.
These are to do with your emotions and past experiences. You can take them and you choose what we're
Yeah.
going to delve
Yeah.
into. So it's at your discretion. So do you want to think of a positive emotion or a negative emotion?
Hmm. I always really like having that option somewhere worked in. The whole like, this is entering a contract. Do you want to enter this contract? You don't have to. When we
Yeah.
did the candle episode, that was a big part of it. But the whole episode wasn't about candles, obviously, but the episode where candles were mentioned
I know what
as
you mean.
being a contract.
I forgot how much I love that premise. See, this is why we need to start like writing some of these episodes up to be
I
able
know,
to easily
I
like go
know.
back through them. I think it was I was in Seville with Javi Benitez, and he was telling me about one of the effects that the late Gabby Pereira's, um, amazing, like it's like just one of the best magicians ever. I was so fortunate enough to get to see him live.
Mm.
And he was telling me about an effect, and I won't go into too much of the specifics about it, just purely because I don't know what's published or what's not published. But he would, in essence, do this effect for people, and this is, I'm talking this like third hand now,
Yeah,
second hand. So I'm not going to get into the details because I could also be getting some of this wrong too. But essentially, he would just give someone a few seconds back. He would be able to take someone back a few seconds in time.
yeah,
So I don't know if this has been put, if he's there's a whole Instagram page that shares Gabby's performances, like that are recorded on video, so it's likely to be on there on Instagram. Um, but yeah, he would like take some. I think he would like take someone, or if somebody was like having a bad day, the sort of premise was like, oh, what would you give to be back in time
mm,
with maybe a lost loved one, or in a moment that went wrong, that was a pivotal moment that could have gone right. Time is so precious. I'm going to give you the gift of just a few moments back. It's not going to be able to. It's not going to change your life. It's not going to do anything. But at least I don't know. Whatever way he would phrase it, and I'm not going to even attempt to tread on that like that path. But he would then show a basic effect, or essentially basic effect, but all framed around giving, instead of like going back in time, it would be framed around the idea of giving the gift of time, I
yeah,
think. And again, I'm being very cautious to not misquote or
yeah,
try not to misconstrue anything. But as soon as you reminded me about your whole thing of getting into a contract with someone, I love that. If you were to combine that with that effect, like, look, I want to enter into a contract with you, but because what I'm about to do is you're going to go back in time, and it sounds crazy, but some people are not willing to do that.
yeah,
So before I begin, I want to enter into a contract with you to say, and it's only going to be for a few seconds, but you are going to be comfortable to go back in time just a few seconds. Just even starting like that, if you're going to go for the realistic approach to a magic trick, it's
mm.
just sort of like, oh, okay, I really have to think about whether I want this to happen or not now.
It holds a lot of weight, doesn't it? It gets them in a
Yeah.
certain mindset.
Yeah. Especially if it was like a signed contract, if you got them to sign a napkin,
Mm.
giving someone like your word as a human is the one thing you have when you have nothing, when you have no money, when you have
Yeah,
no possessions, no house, no clothes, no car, when you're lying in the gutter of the street naked, dying. Your word is the only thing you have worth anything.
you know what's? It's kind of a dumb idea, but I'm gonna stop apologizing for pipe dream stuff, because this isn't necessarily pipe dream. It's just the dumb romantic in me. But have you ever had it where you like you meet someone random at a bar or something, and you do a couple of party tricks or a couple of magic tricks, and someone keeps saying like, I'll get you another drink if you do another one,
Yeah.
or show us another one. Can you? What else can you do? And I love that, because obviously there is no. I mean, I don't do like any kind of glory hunting, but it's nice when someone is like really interested in it. And I like the idea of playing with that and saying to them, there is one other thing I can show you, but I'm kind of reluctant to. I like the idea of you being reluctant about getting into the contract. And if you said to someone like, this is only a work in progress, I haven't done it very many times. Listen, if I show you it, will you sign something for me? And I like the idea of the tension that builds up from them, where they're like, I'm going to get let in on something secret. I'm going to get to see something he's only shown 2 people.
I think it's got to live up to it then, though.
I know.
But that's okay. What if it was, what film is it? Snatch. You know Snatch. And he's talking about Bricktop with Tommy. And Tommy says, da 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 da. And who's Jason Statham's character? What's his name?
Oh God, I can't remember.
I know, it's the one name I can't remember. But he says, oh, well, now you're in his pocket. Now you're in his pocket. You don't want to be his pocket. Well, now you own something. And that phrase of being in someone's pocket has always been something that's stuck out to me over the last 20 years. Because I hate being in the position where I owe someone a favor. It's why I'll do favors for anyone. I'm ridiculous with it. I can't really say no to anything, but I'm very, very reluctant to take favors from other people. Like, obviously, I'm a human. I have to. Like, we all rely on each other. But I'm crazy reluctant to take favors back from people, because I don't want to be in their pocket. And I wonder if you could use that in the context of a magic effect. So you're in the position where someone's begging you one final thing, and you just maybe you're really umming and ahhing about it or something, and you go, I can show you one thing, and I'm being serious now, not now, not in 5 minutes, not in 2 days' time, but at some point in the future, I'm going to need a favor from you.
Yes.
I'm not going to tell you what that favor is, but I will ask you for that favor.
Yes, Faustian deal with the devil.
Basically, like a deal with the devil premise, sort of overtones to it.
Yeah.
And that favor might just be that you call them in 6 weeks and say, hey, I'm going to phone you in 10 minutes, say the 6 of hearts, right? It could just be something as basic as that. But there's suddenly now oh, I owe you something now. Yeah. Suddenly I have to give something, not like a physical possession. Well, they don't know, but suddenly if I want to see something incredible, I have to be willing to give up something that I don't know. Yeah, that deal with the devil.
That's really fun.
That's fun, isn't it? So yeah, I'll show you something, but this is a special one. So look, I'm not saying what it is, and it's not going to be now, tonight, and I'm not going to ask you tomorrow or in a week. But at some point in the not too distant future, I am going to need a very particular favor from you. And I will be asking for it. Dude. So if you're comfortable with that, then I'll show you.
Yes. That's right up my alley.
It just kind of feels like, doesn't it?
Goosebumps.
Yeah, and then you just show them ambitious card.
Double lift.
Twisting the aces. Maybe you play it into remember that trick in the Meridian notes about the final thing, the one that you really helped me with and Rory helped me with, about the going back and forward in time?
Oh yeah.
With the phone, with the video recordings. maybe you tie it into that, and then when it comes time to ask, by the end of the effect, they realize what that favor probably will entail.
Yeah.
And then it's cool. But even just like using that whole thing of I'm gonna ask you that favor and like setting the tone, so they have to really think about it. And by the end of the trick, they kind of like, okay, I think that might be what it is. But so it plays into that whole premise of basically is what I'm saying of asking a favor.
Good. I absolutely love that. And you could do it where you don't tell them what the favor is, but you could also have the most amazing network of outs by telling them what the favor is.
What if it's like this, right? So imagine I'm in a bar and I say like, so let's just say like, for example, the trick is angle 0 based. So, pardon me, you tear the corner off and it vanishes, right? And then you say, and you've made the agreement that they owe you a favor. So then you say, look, what I want you to do is go outside, go to the phone box down the road, and have a look for the envelope pinned to the board. And they go in, they find the envelope, come back. Maybe it's like a 10-minute walk. They open the envelope. Inside the envelope is the torn corner that matches their card, right? And that's the trick. And then in front of them, you tear another corner off a card. You place it in an envelope. You seal it shut and you say, I'm going to call you in a couple of weeks and I'm going to ask you to place this envelope somewhere for me. And now it's like, oh, that's kind of a cool favor because it's not too weighty of a favor. It's kind of like, oh yeah, I can, in the local town, they can go and put it, near a local monument or something at a certain time. But then by the end of the effect, it's not too daunting. Like, oh, he's going to ask me, to kill his neighbor's shouty dog or something. It's like, cool. I'm down for that favor because that was worth it.
Yeah.
That's at the end of the using the same, look, in 6 weeks' time, I'm going to ask you to go and place this envelope in a certain place locally. That's the favor.
You can leave them with a card and you could just say, I'm going to ask a favor of you. If I ever phone you, all I want you to do is say the name of the card I gave you. And if you did that with like 50 people, you've just got outs on your phone of an entire deck.
What if it's this, dude? What if it's, what if you say, right, so the effect, so you say to them, I need to ask a favor of you in a few weeks' time.
Mm-hmm.
And then they agreed to it. And then you say, right, I want you to think of and write down a random 2-word phrase. Maybe they write down like guacamole pineapple. And you say, I want you to call this number and speak to someone and ask them what the password is. And they call the number and the person says the password is guacamole pineapple. And like, what the hell? And you say, in 6 weeks' time, someone's going to give you a phone call and you're just going to say the first 2 words that come to your mind. Right? So the trick isn't, so yeah, they react to the guacamole pineapple one. It's just a different method. But then in 6 weeks' time, you get someone, a random person, or just another magician to call the number. And they're like, hey, can you give me the password? And then they say guacamole pineapple. And you can hear the other person on the other end of the phone go, oh my God, what the and just beep. Or you say even better, you say to them, in 6 weeks' time, I'm going to call you out the blue, and you're just going to make up a completely different, just think of it on the spot, random 2-word password, secret word, phrase. So then when the person rings up in 6 weeks' time, they make up another one like a light bulb wallet. And then they hear someone go, oh my God, that's my... And they're like, oh my God, did I just reveal what somebody was thinking? And it so it's like, it's secondary because it ties, it makes the first effect even stronger for them.
Yeah. And it does give them the impression that it's like a chain that's going to keep going on when it's literally just for them.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a weird, fun approach.
And it cancels the method out from the first time they've seen it then.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's really cool.
You could just use the Diverter app from Mark Kirstein to do that.
You know? True.
So that you say, look, I'll just think of a random playing card. Maybe use like mnemonic. They cut a card under the table so nobody, air quotes, knows what it is.
Yeah.
And you code that to the person on the other end of the phone using the Diverter app. And then you just call them in like 5 weeks' time. We get a friend to call them in 5 days' time. And then they says, okay, hey, I'm with Lloyd. He's asking me for you to just name a random playing card that I might be thinking of. And they're like, 3 of hearts. And I'm like, oh my God, what? That would be so much fun, actually.
I wish we had like another hour or two to flesh out some of this stuff. But you're being summoned.
It down.
I know. If only there was a magazine that was going to come out one day.
Dude,
almost like some kind of black art magazine.
On that note, folks, if you are still listening at this point, then it's only fitting for you to comment guacamole pineapple down below.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button and drop some engagement somewhere along the line so we know you're out there.
Yeah.
The World Wide Web.
Yeah. And there's at least like 7 people who watch this, but I've not seen anyone share it. So, dude.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Please share it.
Mm-hmm. Don't be a fake friend.
The most lackluster shit. Please share it for us.
We're both very tired. It's okay.
It's true. It's true. I've been awake far too long. On that note, thank you all so much for listening. I'm saying thank you for listening because you wouldn't hear me say that if you weren't at this point in the podcast. So thank you all for listening. Thanks for getting this far.
Yeah.
As always, we'll be back next Wednesday, 5 p.m. London time. Head to theblackartco.com for all links, including links to the Facebook group and links to the YouTube channels and all the streaming podcast platforms plethora. The plethora of podcast platforms available to listen to our podcast on.
Yeah. And if we haven't answered your question, please blame Lloyd and not me.
We're doing a reader's question special next week.
Yeah.
That was Jake's idea, so blame Jake.
No.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. I've been Lloyd.
I've been Jake.
Peace.